Free at last, the story of Moses. Abraham had a son named Isaac, and Isaac had a son named Jacob. And Jacob had a son named Joseph, who saved God's people from famine by bringing them to Egypt. When the famine was over, Joseph and his brothers didn't follow God out of Egypt. Neither did their children, or their children's children, or their children's children's children. And even though God's family was now bigger than ever, they were about to be in trouble, because a new king began to rule in Egypt. This king was very mean to God's people. He made them his slaves. All day long they worked. They didn't get snack breaks or time to play or anything. God's people felt alone and crushed, so they cried out to God, "Where are you? We need you." God heard their cries. God saw their trouble, and God's heart was breaking over all of it, especially how God's people felt all alone. He would find a way to be with them again. God picked a man named Moses to rescue his people. Moses knew all about their slavery, but he had tried to rescue God's people once before, and it hadn't worked. So he had given up. Now he was out in the wilderness watching sheep instead, until one day he walked by a bush, not any old bush, mind you, but a bush that was on fire and didn't burn up. When Moses got closer, God started talking to him. "I know my people are suffering and alone," he said. "I hear their cries. I see their chains. Their slavery ends now." Moses thought that was a good news, but he wasn't sure what he had to do with it. Then God said, "Moses, you are going to be the one to tell Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. You are going to say, 'Let my people go.'" Moses was scared. Pharaoh could hurt him, even kill him. God knew Moses was scared, so he gave him an important promise. "I will be with you the whole time." So Moses told Pharaoh everything God had said. Pharaoh didn't want to let God's people go at first, but then God started sending Pharaoh horrible plagues. God turned the Nile River into blood, but Pharaoh didn't listen. So God sent more plagues. He made frogs cover the land. And after that he sent gnats to cover the frogs. And after that the sickness and the horrible boils, and huge hailstones, and a storm of locusts, then a terrible darkness all day long. And still, Pharaoh didn't listen. God used Moses to warn Pharaoh about the last plague. "Let God's people go, or the firstborn son in every family will die." God also used Moses to warn God's people. Listen closely. Every family needs to take a lamb, kill it, and put its blood in your doorpost. That way, when God visits tonight, he'll see the blood and pass over your house. Surely enough, that night many people died, including Pharaoh's son. Finally, Pharaoh told God's people, "You aren't my slaves anymore. Go." God's people were free at last, for years to come, even when it was hard, even when they wandered in the wilderness, even when they weren't sure what was going to happen next. They remembered how God had saved them from slavery in Egypt. But as the years went on, people stopped remembering. They have plenty of reasons to remember, but they thought about other things instead. They thought about how strong they were now, and how they didn't want to be in the wilderness anymore. They even started to miss Egypt. It led them back to the same old problem. God couldn't remain. Sin drove him away. So Moses and God's people began to hope and to pray, "God, will you come back to stay?"